Imagine buying a pair of leather gloves, then learning that dog mess may have helped prepare the hide. In Victorian London, that was only one way filth could turn a profit. Fireplace ash went to brickmakers. Men hunted sewers for lost coins. Animal fat returned to drawing rooms as candlelight. Welcome to History Was Gross, where the dirt stays in the story. Today, we are following 4 foul trades through London. Not to pretend the Victorians invented recycling, but to find out who pocketed the money and who was left with the stink. Start with the cleanest room in the story, a Victorian parlour after breakfast. The fire is low, the grate is grey. What remains looks useless. Ash, cinders, and fragments of coal that failed to burn. Now multiply that residue by house after house, street after street, across a city heated and cooked for by coal. London called this household refuse dust. That polite word covered far more than the powder on a mantelpiece. A dustbin might contain ash, cinders, bones, rags, broken pottery, oyster shells, kitchen rubbish, and whatever else a household wanted gone. It did not vanish when the servant or householder carried it outside. Parishes contracted men to clear the bins. A dust cart stopped at the curb. One worker filled a basket, another carried it up a short ladder and emptied it into the high cart. Then the load went to a dust yard. Journalist Henry Mayhew visited these yards while researching London labour and the London poor. He found not a simple rubbish dump, but a workplace organised around separation. Women and older men stood among the heaps with iron sieves. Fine material fell through. Larger cinders stayed above. Rags, bones, coal, metal, and broken objects went into their own piles. The whole yard moved, sifting, shoveling, carts arriving, barges leaving. The question was not whether the heap was filthy, it was whether enough of it could be sold. The first surprise is that the ash had customers. Fine dust could be mixed with clay in brickmaking. Coarser cinders, known as breeze, could help fire the brick clamps. Barge loads left the dust yards for brick fields beyond the crowded centre. So the remains of one London fire could help make the walls around another. That does not mean every London brick contained household ash. It means coal residue formed one documented material stream in the building economy. A city burning fuel to expand was also sorting some of that fuel's remains into the materials of expansion. It sounds circular. It was also filthy work. Mayhew found dust yards in suburban spaces, sometimes close to poorer housing, where large heaps and heavy loads could be handled. He described an oppressive atmosphere in damp weather and workers grey with ash, standing deep in the material they sifted. And the business worked only while someone wanted the output. Ash and rags were among the genuinely profitable parts of household rubbish. But as London grew, the volume and mix of its waste could outstrip the uses available for it. The machine could make waste faster than the market could redeem it, and ash was only the polite end of this economy. If you like history with the dirt left in, subscribe to History Was Gross. There is plenty more where this came from. Now leave the dust yard and look down at the pavement. Victorian London had a specialist trade built around something almost everyone else stepped around. Dog dung had a market name, Pure. The people who collected it were pure finders. The name was not a joke. Mayhew was told it came from the substance's role in scouring or purifying certain hides during leather dressing. Pure finders walked London streets with covered baskets or pails. Mayhew described a black leather glove on the collecting hand, although he also recorded collectors who worked without one. What filled the basket could be sold to tan yards. In certain leather dressing processes, it was worked into the hide before later finishing stages. That is the part worth remembering. A foul street find had an industrial buyer. This was not simply poverty scraping value from a gutter. A collector searched the street, a tannery bought the bucket, a leather dresser handled the hide. The finished material could become a glove or a shoe far removed from the smell of the original basket. Mayhew even recorded counterfeit pure. Old mortar could be broken up and mixed in because its dry, pale appearance resembled the more valuable material. There was enough of a market to attract adulteration. Even filth could be faked once there was money in it. But this was a particular trade, not a secret ingredient in every Victorian glove. An industry could value a material without every finished product depending on it. What he did show is stranger. A substance with no value to the pedestrian could have value to an industry. Disgust depended on where you stood. To the passerby, the material was street filth. To the finder, it might be a day's income. To the tanner, it was an input. To the customer, it disappeared inside a finished object. The useful part travelled. The collector carried the smell and the stigma. And if a street could hide a saleable material in plain sight, the drains beneath it offered a more dangerous gamble. Below London, waste moved with water. Money and saleable objects entered drains from houses and streets. Mud collected in worn brick channels. Mayhew reported metal, rope, bones, cutlery, jewellery and coins lodged in cracks and hollows, sometimes rusted together into heavy masses. Some men went down to find them. Mayhew called them sewer hunters, shore workers or toshers. They wore greasy working clothes and canvas aprons. A dark lantern was strapped to the chest. A long pole ending in an iron hoe tested unsafe ground, steadied the body and raked through the sludge. The tool was not theatrical. It could stop a worker sinking into soft mud. It could also reach into the places where London had accidentally stored its loose change. Mayhew described coins standing on edge where mortar had worn away between bricks. He recorded scraps of iron and copper, old rope, bones, plate, and occasional jewellery. The men filled bags, left the sewer, sold what could be sold, and divided the proceeds. This was not a secret treasure chamber. It was a workplace organised around uncertainty. A day's search might reveal something valuable. It might produce only bulky scrap. The same tunnel that held a coin could contain rotten brickwork, sudden water, rats, or foul air. Mayhew linked the name to recovered copper called tosh. Whatever the word's origin, the trade was plain enough. Rubbish above ground became inventory below it. Money did not make the danger smaller. It gave workers a reason to face it. Officials warned about suffocation. The men argued that exclusion removed their livelihood. Neither side made the sewer clean. Their skill was knowing where objects settled, which ground could hold them, and what a buyer might take. Value did not rise by magic. Someone had to enter the place everyone else avoided, carry it out, and sell it. The sewer turned loss into a game of chance. Above ground, a different set of trades processed waste on an industrial scale and announced themselves to the neighbourhood before you reached the gate. Picture a candle burning in a quiet London room. The flame is steady. The pale candle looks clean. The light feels domestic and safe. Now trace one possible material route backwards. For centuries, tallow, rendered animal fat, provided affordable London lighting. Butchers supplied the raw material. Chandlers transformed it into dipped or moulded candles. Animal fats could also enter 19th century soap making alongside vegetable oils and other ingredients. The finished objects promised light and cleanliness. Producing their materials could create the opposite experience for anyone living nearby. Rendering meant heat, Vats, grease, vapor, smoke, carts, and organic matter that could spoil. In 1854, City of London medical officer John Simon described slaughterhouses and their connected nuisance trades: bone boilers, tallow melters, gut workers, and tripe dressers, as a chain reaching into residential streets. Residents complained that smells and VA pews crossed the workshop boundary. This is where the weighing scale stops looking balanced. The candle could be sold elsewhere. The soap could leave the works. The neighbourhood could not package the air and send it away with them. A candle had an address. So did the smell. Simon did not have modern germ theory, and Victorian officials often misunderstood disease. But the complaints reveal the conflict clearly. A trade useful to the city could be intolerable on the street beside it. The processes stayed distinct. Bones entered glue, manure, and other streams. Fat supplied candles and soap. The materials differed. The bargain did not. London wanted the output. It needed people to handle the input. Simon's complaints and later historical research show that workers and poorer neighbourhoods could carry costs that did not travel with the finished product. The question was never simply whether waste had value. It was who received that value and who had to live beside the process. Put the four materials back on the scale. Ash could enter brickmaking. Dog dung could enter particular leather processes. Sewer workers could recover objects with resale value. Animal byproducts could become light, soap, glue, manure, and other goods. That is real resourcefulness. It is not a complete recycling system. Markets recovered only the parts of refuse that paid. Francis Thielmann's 2024 study shows the limit. The bargain varied by decade, district, contractor, and material. When profitable outlets failed to absorb the volume, collection could not pay for itself, especially in poor districts. Municipal authorities increasingly had to fund removal as a public service, not a scavenger hunt for saleable fragments. Where refuse no longer paid, collection increasingly became a public expense. That shift helped push waste handling toward regular public service rather than a scattered hunt for valuable fractions. It did not happen at one moment, and it did not make Victorian London suddenly clean, but it exposed the limit of the old bargain. A city cannot rely on every dangerous or disgusting substance finding a buyer. These workers were not curiosities. Each had specialist knowledge, grades of ash, buyers and quality, water and brickwork, heat and fat. That knowledge made unwanted material move. It also hid the labour inside respectable objects. A brick did not show the woman at the sieve. A leather cover did not show the basket on the street. A recovered coin did not show the hand in the mud. A candle flame did not show the rendering yard beyond somebody else's window. Victorian London did not discover that filth was secretly clean. It discovered that selected waste could change category when labour, a process, and a buyer met. Remove any one of those and the value disappeared. So the final scale does not read waste on one side and money on the other. It asks two harder questions: who profits and who pays? In Victorian London, some filth became money, but the people who found it, carried it, and lived beside it paid the rest of the price.